if I told you I know a way for you to get them all paid off in a matter of weeks? Hey, it's Blazer. I'd like to take credit for the permanent smile you're about to have on your face. Imagine wiping out all your credit cards. Here's what you do. AFLcash.com. That's your first step. AFLcash.com. Advantage First Lending. It's the easy button. Oh, push the easy button. Remember that? Push the easy button for tapping in to hundreds of thousands of dollars in home equity. And it lets you turn that equity into cash. Call 844-394-CASH. 844-394-CASH. Equal Housing Lender. NMLS 1209177. Subject to lender approval. NMLS ConsumerAccess.org.
We're definitely going to be late to the concert. I feel like we should be there by now.
I'm just taking a little detour. I gotta fill up my gas tank, and I know this place a couple towns over where the gas is cheaper.
Are you serious? We're gonna be late for the concert because you're driving out of the way for cheaper gas? Just use Upside.
All right, guys, so now your mics are live.
Cashback
so don't be saying nothing about Steve, your employer, nothing like that.
Wait, I can get cash back just for buying the gas I need anyway?
Yes, I use it all the time, and I've made around $200. Now pull over so you can download the Upside app before we miss the concert.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code OIL25 to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime, right to your bank, PayPal, or as a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app. Promo code OIL25 for 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code OIL25 for 25 cents per gallon bonus. It's code OIL25.
Portions of the following program will be recorded.
And then
support life-saving cures for children in our community. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, StJude.org.
Your podcast. I'm going to look you to shout out that
donation is greater than ever.
And
once every 48 hours, an Ohioan dies waiting for a transplant. Register online in the Ohio Donor Registry at lifelionofohio.org.
Yeah, your station for news, traffic, and weather in Central Ohio. News Radio 610 WTVN Columbus, WODC HD2 Asheville, an iHeartRadio station.
The world is reacting to Friday's diplomatic blow-up in the Oval Office. It started going south when Ukrainian President Zelensky pressed the U.S. for security guarantees.
The reaction in Ukraine so far is a new consensus that President Zelensky stood up for his people, trying to correct misconceptions and even at times disinformation from the Trump administration about the war. And
if I look at you and call you Ella, just nod with it and go.
So they can only accept a peace agreement if there are security guarantees to
prevent Russia invading
yet again.
She's pulling all the levers and we have people call in. She's doing all
the White House.
Sources tell me the Trump administration is now considering cutting off all ongoing shipments of military aid to Ukraine. And this is a strong signal of this dramatic plunge that we've seen in relations between wartime allies, even though at this point it's unclear what the effect of that would be on the battlefield.
ABC News senior White House correspondent Selena Wang. Agencies across the U.S. government have begun sending a second email to federal employees, again demanding they list 5 tasks they completed at work last week. This time the email giving federal employees the option of responding that they can't elaborate because their work is classified or sensitive. The number of U.S. measles cases continues to climb. This week saw the first death from the disease in this country in 10 years in Texas. School-aged child, unvaccinated. Dr. Desmar Walks from the Austin Travis County Health Authority.
You ready for your part, Ella?
One death is too many in 2025. The most important thing we can do today is make sure that we receive MMR protection.
We have MMR is a vaccine that protects against measles, mumps, rubella, and chickenpox.
Back from the break,
Vatican says Pope Francis spent a peaceful night in the hospital and is resting after aspirating during a coughing attack Friday. He was treated with a mask that delivers high-pressure oxygen
flurries, high of 33,
to recover from pneumonia.
low of 19 for tomorrow, or tonight if you're at the game.
Yeah. President Trump with an announcement last night about a former member of the Cincinnati Reds.
A social media post from the president at 11:30 Friday night says that Pete Rose was a far better player than most of those who've been inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. He calls it a shame that Rose can now only be named posthumously and announces he's going to pardon Pete Rose. President Trump says, quote, he never betted against himself or the other team, end quote, and then goes on to criticize Major League Baseball. It's unclear what the president is pardoning Rose for, as he was never convicted of a crime. I'm Jack Crumley.
Hey, 2 men were captured by U.S. Marshals in connection with a shooting that killed a 19-year-old on I-480 in Bedford Heights on February the 1st. Authorities arrested Michael Sanchez Ramon, Authorities say another suspect in the deadly shooting of John Diel Sanchez Rivera, 21-year-old Michael Gabriel Alvarado, was arrested by Bedford Heights police on February 26th. Ramon and Alvarado both face aggravated murder charges. Near Columbus and New Albany, the opening of the new Intel computer chip factory is now again delayed. The date originally set for sometime this year was pushed back to 2027, and now Intel says it's looking at finishing that project between 2030 and 2031. And the Cuyahoga County Probate Court Judge Anthony J. Russo announcing that Sandra Morgan is going to immediately resume all the powers, responsibilities, and rights of the East Cleveland Mayor's office to replace Mayor Brandon King after he was suspended following his indictment on corruption charges. King is accused of using his office to steer more than $76,000 of city money to businesses owned by him or his family. His term as mayor would have ended at the end of the year. Morgan said at that point she plans to run for mayor of East Cleveland in the November election.
You ready,
Sandy
Al?
Collins.
Your latest news, traffic, and weather.
If you're not informed, then you're out of the loop.
All you have to do is ask.
Play 610 WTVN on iHeartRadio.
Brought to you by Day and Night Heating and Cooling Products and Dill Mechanical.
This report is sponsored by Lear Capital.
Our financial system is cracking under pressure. Your retirement is at risk. Take control now. Lear Capital is offering a free sky-high silver report and precious metals IRA guide at betternestegg.com. Don't leave your future to chance. Go to betternestegg.com.
What's our last commercial there, Al?
Kitchen. Local, trusted, and focused on what matters.
Because your dream kitchen or bath should never come with pressure.
Just the best quality and service in Columbus.
Learn more at simplebathandkitchen.com. Happy New Year!
Preview the year's newest recreational watercraft, the annual Indian Lake Boat Show. This weekend, February 28th through March 2nd. Stop by Spend a Day Marina and Bud's Marine for the best deals ever. Free parking, too.
Hey, Al, you got the last commercial?
Have you heard Winning Retirement Radio with Greg and Kristen Taylor? You know, we take a personal interest in everyone that walks in our door and meets with us. We love it when you have successes, and we cry with you when you've had, failures.
Yeah.
We've seen all kinds of stories throughout the years, and we'd love to be a help.
Right, keep listening to 610 WTVN to find out your next hour with Greg and Kristen Taylor or at LegacyRetirementGroup.com.
Do you guys know what today is? Huge day. Big crowds are expected.
Oh, yeah, you're talking about the big hockey game tonight, right? Blue Jackets, Red Wings, Ohio Stadium.
Yeah, I did hear that is going on today. No, I'm talking about crowds turning out to check out some of the best in the country. We're talking the best in the country, Ella. Actually, world-renowned, all in one spot.
Oh, yeah, I heard there's over 15,000 athletes from all over the world here for the Arnold this weekend.
Yeah, I did hear that is going on downtown and fairgrounds and stuff. No, I'm talking about a big gathering, like-minded people reinforcing the right to keep and bear arms in the country. I mean, a place you'd really want to be.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm with you. You mentioned this to me not just a few days ago, that NRA dinner is tonight at Villa Milano.
Yeah, that is a good, worthwhile cause. You probably should go to that too.
I heard tickets are still available.
They are. No, I'm talking about Glock Days, Ella. It's Glock Days here at LEPD. It is a place to be. We're giving away Glocks, sales on all the Glocks. There's food, giveaways, raffles. What more could you want? All of that is up next on Target.
Live from LEPD Firearms Range and Training Facility, this is On Target, the latest from the firearms industry, the products and politics that affect your hobby and liberty. This program may not be politically correct, but it is On Target. Now, your host, Eric Delbert.
Good afternoon, welcome to On Target, broadcasting live from the studios of LEPD Firearms Range and Training Facility located at 999 Bethel Road. If you haven't been, I don't know, if you haven't been here before, I don't know why, because today it is the place to be. It is Glock Days, guys.
Good. Hey, I wore my Glock shirt.
You wore your Glock shirt. You probably have a Glock on.
I do.
Yes.
My 30S, my capable 45.
There you go. JC, you're missing Glock Days.
Yeah, but I've got my here by my side, so that's good. But
you're fading out.
Home like Ed has.
Yeah, JC's getting some weather today, we hear. Well, guys, we are the owners of LAPD Firearms Range and Training Facility and are active in law enforcement. But for 1 hour on Saturdays, we put together a group of firearm experts to discuss new products in the market, training tips, and oftentimes political topics surrounding the Second Amendment. Our commitment, though, has always been to bring you the facts about our industry and help listeners and customers with safe, responsible ownership of firearms. Today on this show, this is going to be a good one, Ed. Not just because you're here. Today on the show, JC is going to get us started with some news. And JC, you have some good news today too, right?
Oh, we've got some good news. It's some unusual news too. So unusual, but it's good. So yeah, a lot of good stuff happening.
Great. We're going to get to that here in a second. Glock Days is today at the store. We've been talking about it for a while. If you wanted to come test out that Glock, if you're in the market for one, or you just want to try out some of the new models, they are here today. You can go up on the range. They'll give you a couple rounds. Try them out. They have giveaways. You can purchase one at a sale price. Ed, $20 off any Glock, new or used in the case. Not a bad deal.
Great deal.
You don't see that too often, and so that is going on today through 4 o'clock. At 12:30, though, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, you see we have a couple extra guests sitting here with us, and they are our good friends Bella and Steve, and we brought them in today. We had gone on, Steve had a podcast. What's it called?
Yeah, you came on Lawyer Talk.
Yes.
Podcast, yep.
And Bella, in law school.
Yes.
And considering buying your first firearm. So we kind of went through that, what that looks like, how that plays out. And today, we kind of reversed the roles. You came into the store, and we went through what it would take to purchase your first firearm. And maybe it's not the right thing for you, but we did it. We went through everything, went to the range and shot. So at 12:30, we're going to talk a little bit about that experience.
Yes.
So we're excited about that. And what else do we have here? We're going to actually talk about a few Glocks. Actually, I do see someone in the audience here. He might be up here in a little bit, but we're going to leave him for a minute there. We're going to tease that one and stuff. But what else here? So to the right of me, I have, of course, Big Ed. Good to see you, Big Ed.
Good afternoon.
You know, I got to work with your son last night. Always a pleasure working with your son.
I heard.
Yep.
He had to keep you in line as usual.
Yeah, he did back me up a few times out there, but it was good. It was good stuff. JC's on the line. How are you handling the snow up there, JC?
Oh, well, it's fortunately I'll be leaving this and coming back home to wonderful Columbus here just in a couple of days. So, yep, snow's here and it's cozy outside and but 50-mile-an-hour winds and a little snow, so it's kind of exciting. Anyway, I started looking at this, Eric, and every story I have is good. This will be the first time, I can't even imagine, when I don't have a negative story. I've got about 10 of them, and they're all good. So,
that's good.
Yeah, that's kind of surprising.
Well,
yeah.
Before we get to the good stuff, let's start out on the bad note. Edward, are you done cleaning your glasses there? Because it's Chicago update. What's it like in the Chicago city?
You don't want to know. Let me just put it this way. You're lucky to be up there where you are, John, and we're lucky to be in Ohio because we got 64 homicides in Chicago this week with 200
this year.
Or this year, I'm sorry. Yeah, since January. Might as well be this week. It's still pretty fresh. 243 shot.
Can you imagine that? So it's March 1st today, right? 2 months into the year, 243 people shot already in the city of Chicago, who is known for being, very not supportive of the Second Amendment.
And the hardest place to buy a gun.
Exactly. It doesn't seem to be working out too good with them.
I hear Glock switches are on sale there too.
Are they? Yeah. You don't prosecute. How do you don't? No reason to stop doing it.
Right.
Guys, if you missed the show, you can always catch the podcast. That's at 610WTVN.com. We're on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, really any place you get your podcasts. We are out there. Also on Facebook Live. Ed, looks like we're up today with good sound and stuff. And on
everybody's checking in, and apparently we're coming across the screen real good because nobody's complaining.
Good. JC, before we go to you, one thing I wanted to throw out there, this is an interesting point, not sure what it means, but we did, in honor of Glock Days this week, we put out a email blast like we often do. Probably have 5,000 people, 10,000 people in a database, so we put it out there just telling people that Saturday is the day to come for Glock Days. Well, it's interesting enough, we look at the stats, and there are always a number of the emails that get bounced. And sometimes it's people who've changed email addresses. Sometimes it's their email box is full. But we started to notice a trend this week, and JC and you and I talked about it last night. The vast majority of the bounces we had, and it was several hundred, all had email addresses associated with the high estate.
Uh-oh.
So it is interesting. If you want to do a little social experiment here, we're going to send out something else and maybe call it, free pot and see if it goes through. Because certainly the ones that say, Glock Days or LEPD, none of them got through to the end user.
So you're trying to say that somehow
I'm just pointing out the observation.
Website is blocking you?
That's what it appears to be, because every single one was blocked. That went to a .edu, OSU.edu address. So go figure that. But that's why it's a perfectly safe campus, and that's why Bella's in here looking at guns today. So, but nonetheless, it was an observation. More to come on that. JC, what do you got?
A lot of stuff, but I think we're really fortunate. The new director of the FBI, Kash Patel, has also been named on Monday as the acting director of the ATF, that is the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, which Biden had weaponized to the point that they attack on every angle. The Democrats just, honestly, it is a conspiracy. They want to do everything they can to take your rights to own a firearm. So what they were doing was cracking down who sells firearms, FFL. So they were trying to reduce the number of federal firearms licensees in every which way they can. So industry is just applauding the fact that now we have Kash Patel, who's the acting director until they appoint a director. But now we're hoping that as the National Shooting Sports Foundation says, that the ATF will return to its proper role as a law enforcement agency focused on combating violent crime and illegal firearms trafficking. And they're confident the acting director, Patel, will view members of the firearm industry, including people like ourselves, licensed firearms dealers, as ATF's partners on the front line of keeping firearms out of the wrong hand in combating illegal firearms trafficking and preventing violent crime involving the misuse of firearms, which is what we should be doing. And that's the way it always had been until the Biden administration came in and made the ATF basically our enemy. So we're really welcoming this change. So looking forward to that. Another good story. I mean, the Bureau of Industry and Security. I mentioned last week, or maybe it was the week before, but anyway, when Trump came in, he decided to look at everything that was going on in the Biden administration. Unfortunately, he paused the processing of all export licensing for all products. And this, of course, affected the firearms industry. But now, with the National Shooting Sports Foundation, had the discussion with BIS, and so right now everything's back to normal. They listed all the bans, and licenses are now being processed. So that's a big aid to that. Here's a big one that we need to talk about, and I've mentioned it over the years. But now the House and Senate committees are holding hearings on veterans' Second Amendment rights. I mean, there are 6 million veterans out there, over that, in the United States. And when the Democrats came in under Clinton, Bill Clinton had a change, a real negative change, on veterans' benefits involving the Second Amendment. And so right now, the chairman of the House and Senate Committees on Veterans Affairs, U.S. Representative Mike Bost, and Senator Harry Morgan, and my favorite senator from Louisiana, John Kennedy, they've introduced the Second Amendment, the Veterans Second Amendment Protection Act. In the House, it's H.R. 1041, if you want to look it up. In the Senate, it's number 478. But this legislation would reverse the controversial and long-standing policy by which veterans are stripped of their constitutional right to even possess a firearm. And this is without due process, simply because they've asked for assistance, which is available through the Veterans Administration, where they assigned a fiduciary to help them manage going through all the paperwork and getting that straightened away. Well, under the Clinton administration, they have folks, I mean, these are just clerks, they're unelected bureaucrats, and what they've done is, if you ask for this kind of assistance under the Veterans Administration as a disabled veteran, they automatically have marked you down and as a mental defective. I mean, there's no adjudication. It's just, you're asking for this fiduciary help through the VA? Well, guess what? You are now considered a mental defective, and what they do with that, they turn it into NICS, the National Instant Criminal Background a check system of the FBI, and so the FBI marks it down, and therefore you're marked as a mental defective. You cannot even possess a firearm, let alone purchase a new one. And this came up several years ago where veterans are complaining that, hey, I'm going in, went to buy a firearm, and they said, no, I'm permanently blocked from ever owning one or possessing one. And when Senator Grassley looked at this a couple years ago, he found out that people on the NICS list that were marked mental defective, all people, 99% of them were veterans. And it turns out that this is because of what the Democrats did way back then. This has been going on since 1998. Well, the Second Amendment Protection Act would prohibit the VA from sending a veteran's information to the FBI, check, and put him on that list unless a judge or a court has adjudicated this specific case and deemed that the person would be a danger to themselves or others. So before that, this mental defective didn't require any finding that they were a danger to themselves, or mentally ill, suicidal. It just put you on that list. So hundreds of thousands. And so what has happened? The word's out. So now veterans are not going to seek any kind of counseling. Fiduciary stuff, process. They know that if they go in and do that, they'll be banned forever for Second Amendment rights. And it's just these senators have come up and they said this is so wrong that they can continue to be stripped of these rights. So they want to get this bill passed. They want to send it to President Trump to sign. But think about that these veterans are now knowing this are not even seeking out the benefits they're entitled to, because they know that the VA will put them on this list.
And JC, we've been reporting on this almost since we've been on the air, and we have someone here who is a veteran. What's your thought on that, Frank?
Yeah, so this is Frank LaRose, Ohio Secretary of State. So it lacks common sense, right? We want our veterans to take advantage of the benefits that they are owed. We also want these people who are, by the way, highly trained and proficient with firearms to be able to protect themselves and their families. I've always had this very simple idea that the more good guys and gals with guns, the better. And this just fails the common sense test. Just one of many things that this administration and this Congress and this Senate needs to put right. It's about taking the wrongs of the past and putting them right, and there's a lot of work to be done.
That is the voice of Mr. Frank LaRose. Either it is Frank LaRose or a guy who came in with the jacket that said, today, I don't know these days.
An imposter. I was just shopping here.
I know. We meant for Glock Day. We drug you up here. Guys, let's jump to a break. When we come back on the other side, we're going to talk a little bit about Glocks, a little bit more news. We're on Target, broadcasting live from the studios of LAPD Firearms Range. We'll be back after the break.
News gathered.
All right, Bella, you ready for your debut?
You're up.
I'm a little. Oh, wait.
No, I'll point to you.
Oh, my gosh. I'm
not
nervous.
Yet. Yeah.
I missed my
Eric, what day is it?
I know.
It's Glock Day.
So, look, there's no pressure. We pay by the minute. Don't you drag this thing out for 10 minutes, it's like costing us.
Okay. I'll go.
Yeah, no pressure. Do it as fast as you can, but not too fast.
You should tell him for every minute you talk, you want a 10% discount.
Hey. Good seeing you.
Good to see you. Actually, I've got something I can share about Glocks. I used to be a Glock skeptic. And then when I deployed to Iraq, that was the Glock 19 was what the Iraqi police were issued. And so we were out with them. We were like, well, we're going to carry what they're carrying. I became a fan way back in 2006 by
we'll talk about that, because Ed and I, too, aren't big. We're like closet Glock fans. Like, we don't talk about it, but we both have one on our hip.
Yeah. So I used to think like, oh, come on, plastic parts are for toys.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, this thing is a reliable firearm. It's great on the range. It's great in combat, candidly. You fill the thing full of all kinds of grit and it still works.
Yeah. I like your AKs, right?
Yeah.
All right, you getting ready? Oh, wait, let me get you the weather.
Oh, yeah.
34.
34.
Yeah, this is stuff they don't teach you in law school. So
yeah, this is tough.
This is definitely not what my degree is in, but we will
mine
try.
Standing up and talking in front of people?
Yeah, come on.
It'll be help you do that.
No pressure. You're standing next to Secretary of State, too. Sorry.
Oh, come on.
I know. Now I feel a little nervous.
How much time we got?
5 seconds.
Oh, 5 seconds.
Your ABC First warning weather. Today, cloudy skies, flurries, high of 33. Tonight, partly cloudy skies, a low of 19. It'll get a little chilly. Sunday, mostly cloudy skies and a high of 35. It's currently 34.
on your severe weather station, News Radio 610 WTVN.
News headlines and interesting talk. News Radio 610 WTVN.
You're as cold as ice. You're willing to say.
Little shout out to the Blue Jackets game in Ohio Stadium today. Huh?
There you go.
Are they playing today?
In the Ohio Stadium. Yeah.
Outside.
Yeah. Little shout out.
I was kidding, Eric. I was kidding.
That was Bella on the weather too. Not bad for your first time under pressure. It's not bad.
She's not coming every Saturday, is she? Because I don't want to take away my chances.
If she shows up, maybe I'll have her here every Saturday, Edward.
All right.
Maybe I went into the wrong career.
There you go. It's not too late. Welcome back to OnTarget. We're broadcasting live from the studio of LEPD Firearms Range. It's Glock Days here at LEPD. A lot of hustle and bustle going on. Come check out a Glock. If you've never shot one before, you want to try a new model out. It's a really cool models. Actually, we have a couple here on the desk. They've come out with a few where the optic, Edward, is integrated right in to the sight itself. And these are aim points. And what's neat about them, it's a model of an aim point that you can't purchase otherwise, and they come on the Glock. When we can get them, we've been selling a bunch, but they have a lot up there on the range today to shoot. Have you seen that one?
I have not yet.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yep. JC, I'm telling you, you're missing it.
Oh, yeah, but it was worth it being here just listening to Bella, the Wonder Woman. She sounded great on the radio here.
Thank you.
Yeah, terrific. Hey, I know you have, this actually falls in line with you, because another news story is the New York Times, amazingly, discovered that everyday Americans want gun ownership. And they said the New York Times published a rare and honest look at the growing number of new gun owners and found out that not only do everyday Americans value gun ownership, but many of the new gun owners are breaking the stereotypes. People go, it's a gun owner, it's got to be a male, and they're finding out that more and more women are jumping on the bandwagon first time. And the person who did this article, Jenna Russell, I'll give her a name because it's such a good article. Anyway, she was writing to the New York Times, discovered that those who never, ever thought they'd be gun owners suddenly are, and very varied reasons why Second Amendment rights are important. And so she went all across the country, talked to them like men, women, young, old, black, white, trans, gay, whatever. She talked to everyone just to see what is going on here. And it was amazing. She did there's a brief film on it that you watched, but she is interviewing these. Everyone from a doctor who said, I'll never own a gun, and why he got one, and he lives in California, and his reason was just a growing cultural unrest. He said just, people against the anti-Semitism, and then they have all sorts of other things, and the cartels are coming, so that was his reason. Another one who swore she would never, ever own a gun, but she happens to be gay, and she said she feels sometimes threatened when outside going to some places where people find that she's obviously gay, and she says that she just feels like she needs protection. Another gentleman who is a Chinese guy just said, hey, this entire family was wiped out in the wars in the past in World War II, and anyway, and I guess he's Korean, pardon me, World War II in Korea, but he just said self-reliance was his reason, but most of them are just for the protection. Someone just has a family. They feel like they, have to protect their family, but the new owners seem to be, women are now predominantly the growth group out there as far as owning guns. People thought they'd never own one are now buying it. So it's a great story, and you may fall into one of those, Bella, as far as a need. And the other thing I loved about it was the ones you interviewed said not only do not want to own one, but now we own several. One guy
told you, Bella. Well, and here's the built-in advantage that women have when it comes to concealed carry is if Eric was walking around carrying a purse, people would look at him kind of funny. But for women, you kind of expect it, and there's some now that have custom-made sort of pouches in it for draw and everything else. It's a very convenient way to conceal.
Yeah, if this day job doesn't work out for you, you can come sell here and stuff with your pill, right there.
Yeah, there you go. And the other thing, Bella, I've been an instructor for over 20 years, and for new people who are shooting, women outshoot men about 80% of the time with the new folks. They just have this natural ability. They don't have anything to prove. They just want to learn, want to shoot, and it's amazing. But
Yeah.
yeah.
That doesn't really surprise me too much because I never thought I'd own a gun. I never thought I'd really have to until I moved to Columbus and I live alone. I'm a girl. I don't always feel safe leaving the house, especially at night. So I definitely wanted to look into it. And then when you came on our podcast, I was
and I think
more
there's a
interested.
cultural shift too, John, because it when we started, it seemed to be the younger generation almost was ingrained kind of anti-gun, and now it's kind of is like the cool thing to do. And we're getting a lot of young people interested in it. Doesn't mean they have to carry every day or they buy a lot of guns, but they're interested. They're no longer shunning it because it's the awful gun. So it's kind of neat to see that bounce back.
And when you try it, you find out, hey, this is actually fun. You can do it in the winter when you can do outside things, and it's good. It's good for coordination, and it is a way to protect you. The old Colonel Colt said, God created man, but Colonel Colt made him equal. So it is an equalizer. So if you feel, when you have it and you have mastered it, which you need to do, whoever buys one, you need to get training. Don't just go purchase one and stick it in the drawer. You really need to know how to use these safely, store them safely, and be responsible with them. So we have a lot of training we offer at LAPD for that.
Absolutely. And, JC, we're talking about Glock Days, obviously the focus on Glock today, and we were talking off air a little bit, Frank, and Ed, too. I didn't start out being a big Glock fan. Just wasn't. I mean, and I think to your point, it's a plastic gun and stuff. Tell us about your experience.
I used to be one of those Glock skeptics. I thought, plastic parts are for toys. What is this? And then what I had experience doing is traveling to Iraq in 06. We were there training the Iraqi police force. They were issued the Glock 19. So we were out there doing missions with these guys. We thought, well, we should carry what they're carrying so we can cross-level ammunition and that kind of thing. So we spent a lot of time on the range with these Iraqi police officers shooting the Glock 19, seeing the thing actually in the field. It gets grit in it. It still fires reliably. It's a great firearm. And the whole Glock range, I've become a big fan. I've got a little 43 that I use for concealed purposes. The Glock range they're great firearms, very reliable, and I find that it fits in my hand well, it shoots well, it's comfortable, great gun.
Yeah, and it's true, Ed.
Yes.
I can't believe.
Sorry, I was responding to a customer. I'm like you. I did not want to touch a Glock. I didn't like the looks of the Glock, but I was looking for something that was smaller, that carried the 45, that gave me more options on rounds.
Yep.
And at the time, and I still think pretty much right now,
you're right.
It's still the smallest frame 30S that holds the maximum amount of 45 rounds, and it's comfortable to carry. And I carry it all the time when I'm off duty, and I love it.
And we make fun of them. There's no fanciness about them. They all pretty much look the same. But the advantage is they all look the same. And whether you go from the 380 to the 22 to the 9 to the 10, it's the exact same. You know what you're getting, and there's something to be said with that. I mean, I don't want to say it's no frills, because there's certainly, they work and they work well.
You can trick them out. You got all the stuff here to do that. So
exactly. So, and with the advent of the optics now, and with they're putting the optics right on the slide and coming like that, it's a game changer. So stop by and check them out, guys. We're going to jump to the bottom of the hour news. When we come back, we're going to talk to Bella and Steve. Talk to her about her experience in possibly purchasing your first firearm. We're on Target, broadcasting live from the studios of LAPD Firearms Range. We'll be back right after the break.
Back in the studio.
So did you get an opportunity to shoot the new Smith & Wesson 380?
Yes.
Which one was
that? Was the 380 with the longer grip that you did well with.
Yes.
The third one.
Yes, that one was my favorite one.
I just got one of those for Christmas as well. Very nice weapon. They came a long way from the first one, the first generation, to the new one.
And I like the 380 Bodyguard.
That's the
new
one.
Yeah,
the new one, right?
That's what we're talking about.
Well, I need to buy one of the new ones. I've got one of the old ones.
Okay, yeah. No, seriously, you saw the new one though, right?
Yeah, it's like the size of your cell phone. It's incredibly small.
Bella shot it today, and Ed got one for Christmas. So
that's what I would suggest for you. Or the 43X Glock would be a good one for her.
She was actually leaning towards the Ruger LCP, just from a concealability standpoint. I mean,
I think the Smith & Wesson's smaller than that one, isn't it?
No, it's thin, but it's still with the grip a little bit longer and the barrel a little bit longer. So it's just, obviously you want to be able to carry it, and if the young girls, every girl's dressed now, and so you have to look to see how you're gonna be able to conceal it. You want to carry it.
Yeah, you don't want it to print, obviously, but like JC was saying, as far as training. But the biggest thing that I have found is carrying the gun and carrying it in the same place all the time.
Right.
And And while you're at home, if you don't have a big carrier outside, put it on your hip or wherever you're going to carry it, unload it, and just to get used to it and know it's there, because then it would be a natural reaction for you to go to it when you need it.
I don't know if you want to mention this or not, but tonight is the Friends of the NRA banquet.
I was going to mention that.
I'm going to be there. So.
Oh, you're going to be there?
Oh, yeah. I'm giving the Pledge of Allegiance.
Are you really?
All I have to do is step up and say "I," and everybody takes it from me.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. We wanted to go to that, but we had Glock Days, and then I was going to give a shout out to the 15th is the Buckeye Bash, and then the Rod and Game Dinner, Edward, that you missed us talking about last week.
Yes, I heard.
Wait till you hear the menu.
I listened to the show.
Did you hear the menu for it? Yeah, just wait.
Look at all these social plans that you've got here.
Are you going to the Rod and?
Yeah, we're part of the event.
Oh, you should probably take me then.
You're +1.
Yeah.
Ella, we told Ella we'd bring her a doggy bag.
Oh,
wait till you hear the menu. She wasn't listening to when we were talking about it. Can you believe that?
How could she not listen?
Doggy bag of balls. Thank you so much.
What?
Camel meatballs, Ella. It was meatballs.
Okay. Not the Rocky Mountain oysters? Or
I was going to say, don't forget about the Rocky Mountain oysters.
Oh, no thank you.
Sometimes the show gets a little out of hand. Are you good up here?
Sure. I'll hang out. Keep quiet.
Didn't we go to the banquet he's talking about a couple years ago?
Yeah, anyway, we've done it a couple times. It just happened to hit on Glock Day today, so we're tied up to the end.
Do you have a Glock rep in here?
Yeah, up top. Yep. These are the latest craze, though, with the aim points that are in them, that are milled in.
You can't keep them in?
10 seconds.
Yep.
This aim point that's on here, out of all the ones that we've been selling in here, it's the first one I've picked up and was able to find the dot.
All right, you're done, Ed.
Quickly.
From LAPD Firearms Range and Training Facility, this is On Target, the latest from the firearms industry, the products and politics that affect your hobby and liberty. This program may not be politically correct, but it is On Target. Now, your host, Eric Delbert.
Welcome back to On Target. I'm your host, Eric. Joined today. We have a full table today. It's so nice. I think I was by myself last week. Wasn't I, Ed?
No, your dad was here.
Okay. That's the voice of Big Ed.
Chuck.
He is sitting to my right. Shoulder to shoulder with me is Ohio Secretary of State Frank LaRose. Always good to see you. Thanks for stopping in for Glock Days.
Glad to be here.
On the other side, we have Steve and Bella, who we're going to get to here very shortly and talk about their story coming in today and looking at potentially your first firearm. We want to give a shout out to a couple things. Frank, you mentioned tonight the NRA, Friends of the NRA dinner.
Friends of the NRA. It's over at Villa Milano. I think it starts around 5. I'll be giving the Pledge of Allegiance tonight, and they're seeing some friends and fellow Second Amendment advocates. So stop by and join us
for the free dinner. Who are you kidding?
That big slab of lasagna that they give you at Villa Milano. Yeah.
It's good. And then if you miss tonight, the 15th is the Buckeye Bash, which is another great, well worth dinner going to. It's all kinds of good stuff there, but the Buckeye Bash on the 15th at Villa Milano as well. And then, if you haven't had enough, Ed, on the 14th,
that's the one I'm ready for.
Okay, the Wild Game Dinner. We had Jim on last week talking about it. I'm going to run down the menu again because Ella wasn't listening last week. But just, Frank, tell me if this has any interest to you. Now, this is Wild Game Dinner, so you're talking your chicken and beef here, right? So it's going to start out with camel meatballs. Okay, we verified that was meatballs, too.
Yeah, well, good.
And then yak sausage lollipops.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes. Coyote emphasados.
Okay.
Okay, and then we wrap that up with a python lettuce wrap.
It sounds delicious.
Real python?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, as a Green Beret, they used to call us snake eaters, so maybe I should go.
I'm telling you. Walleye for the table, and then the second course, we're going to have Cajun pheasant with bobcat chowder.
Yeah.
Yep, and then smoked pheasant and bobcat sausage will also be on the table. We got roasted duck coming after that. The dirty beans and rice with alligator, I heard, is great.
There are something that tastes like chicken.
Yes. Venison steak, and then what else we got there? All roasted duck. And then we ended up with a dessert of peanut butter and bacon blondies for the table.
Wow.
Huh? It sounds like
gotta check that out.
Yeah, seriously, it is really good if you haven't been to something like that, and certainly tickets are still available out there.
Is our buddy Paul going to be there?
Yes, I'm sure. Yep. And Jim. So, guys, at the table today, we talked about Bella and Steve, and we should probably do a more formal introduction. Steve, you are a defense attorney right here in town.
Yeah, Steve Palmer, criminal defense lawyer, Palmer Legal Defense.
And you do a lot of defending CHL holders and so forth?
I do. I've defended people who have had to use their weapon, unfortunately, even charged with murder. And unfortunately, we're successful 100% on those so far. But anybody out there who thinks that just because you can, you won't have a problem with the law enforcement later, it's always a concern.
Yep, definitely something to think about long before it ever happens. Think about what happens if you're in that scenario. And then Bella, what's your story?
I'm currently a 2L at Capital Law School. I guest star on Steve Palmer's podcast. It's called Lawyer Talk. That's kind of how we ended up here today.
Yep.
And
I think what started this relationship is you had mentioned that you were interested in maybe your first firearm.
Right.
So still living by yourself, younger female and stuff. So we thought we went on your podcast, talked a little bit about that, and then today we kind of flipped it, had you come in the store and kind of started from scratch.
Right.
Asked you really, why now?
Yeah.
Why at this point in your life have you decided that, you know what, I may consider a firearm and maybe even carrying that firearm going forward? What brought you to that point?
Kind of like what I was saying before, I never really thought I would need one, but now I live alone. I live in downtown Columbus. I just don't feel safe all the time. Maybe I watch the news too much, or maybe not. Maybe not enough, but I just wanted to feel safer when I leave the house. I wanted something small that I could keep with me, but I for sure want to take courses and make sure I know how to
Did
shoot
you
it.
realize going into it how many little nuances? I mean, I'm sure initially you thought, okay, this would be a good thing, but as we talked about on your show, Steve, and then here this morning, there's a lot that goes with carrying a firearm. It's a lot of responsibility, and one of the things you have to ask yourself is, do I have the ability within myself to potentially take someone's life? And that's a big thing. And sometimes we get people who come in and they say, no, I just want to scare them. That's not for them.
Yeah.
It's not. There's other things, other avenues to go down, because you need to be confident that if it's between me or them, I'm going home, my family's going home tonight, and sorry I had to use force against you. If death happened, hey, you put me in that position. You have to have that fight mentality. And so we talked about that.
I think that was the hardest part for me for a long time. My parents have wanted me to get a gun or look into getting a gun for a long time. But yeah, just that factor of I do have to take someone's life at the end of the day. Like, I know it's me or them, but that still is a lot of pressure.
Because we don't grow up in society. You don't grow up looking to hurt someone. Typically, you don't grow up. You don't want to inflict harm on someone. But unfortunately, you have to take that attitude that if I'm protecting myself and my family, it's me or you, and I'm going home. Or if you get the best of me, it's going to be the hardest person you got the best of. I'm going to go down fighting.
Anybody that's nonchalant or like not serious about this hasn't really thought about it. For people in law enforcement or in the military, we've had to think about this. For someone who's considering buying a firearm, you have to think about the act of taking a life is a incredibly serious. Your life will change forever, right? Yep. As a defendant now in a criminal case, most likely you're going to live with that for the rest of your life. But you've got to be comfortable with. This person was threatening my life, trying to take my life, and I decided that I wanted to live to see my grandchildren, right? And I want to be able to protect myself.
And to that, you have to, and we do it in law enforcement, I know you did it in the military, you have to think through those scenarios long before they happen and prepare for them.
Yeah, and you guys are the pros. You know what to do, and I get them on the other side when people have had to use their firearms. And I've had a number of situations where people pulled their firearms and weren't quite sure what to do. And that's why, when it came up on our podcast with self-defense, I was like, I got just the guy.
Yeah.
Because training is everything, and it would say it helps me help people later if they know what they're doing.
And so, Bella, you walked in the store today. There's probably 800 guns in the case. Were you a little overwhelmed?
No, I didn't feel overwhelmed because I knew I was only going to go for the smallest ones, or what you would recommend would be best for me.
And that's where you start. I mean, that's the first question we ask. Are you looking to purchase a firearm for home defense and going to the range, or is this something you might consider carrying going forward? And that really splits the cases in half. And then when you start to you talk about, now have you thought about carrying it? You start to kind of get a sense on the firearms that are in that category, and then we started going through them. And you walked in today with a revolver, Smith & Wesson revolver, one of my favorites. And what was your thought? You thought that was going to be the one?
I thought that would have been the one for me because it seemed the most simple, if that makes sense, to handle. But when we actually went to shooting them, I knew that was my last choice out of all of them.
Well, that's good that you got out there to be able to see right then and there. Now, this is not what I decided that I should carry, so.
Right.
Were you surprised when you thought that maybe the revolver wasn't right for you? What were some of the things that pointed you towards the semi-autos in general?
A little less kickback, I felt.
The recoil, yep.
Right. And I was nervous about the other guns because of pulling it back. I thought that would be tough for me in the moment, but it really, you get used to it so quick.
Right. There's a technique to it.
Right.
Right.
So I think I adjusted to that pretty easily.
Yeah, you didn't. That really wasn't an issue. You loaded the mags well. I mean, that's always something. But there's speed loaders out there you can get to help you with that. But so, and the other things that you picked up on that you saw as we laid several out there was that sometimes a revolver isn't always that easy to conceal. It's small.
Oh, yeah, that was another big
but
thing.
the cylinder, at the end of the day, you still have, the width of that cylinder that's kind of the governing part of it that can print, as we call it, depending on how you're carrying it. So I think that, and then also you picked up on the capacity. 5 rounds should, in most situations, certainly be enough. But sometimes having 10 rounds, having the confidence that you have that with you, or that you have a magazine that you can carry extra, is comforting, or it gives you an extra level of comfort on that.
You know what I was most impressed with? I'm going to throw one back at you because we came in here, and even before we started all this, I talked to some of your sales folks over here. They treated me, it was an easy experience. There was no judgment. There was no condescending tone. So I guess the takeaway I saw here today is if you're not comfortable with a gun or you don't know what to get, this is the place to come because you guys really took the pressure off and made it easy for somebody who has no idea what they're doing to figure it out.
Right, and that is...
I was just going to say, I do want to thank you for being so patient with me. I really am so new to all this. I don't...
And honestly, Bella, that's where we thrive. That's what we love. We love taking that new shooter who knows a little bit, but we can educate them. That is our forte
and get
here.
Trained the proper way.
And I definitely want to take some of your classes that you were telling me about in the other podcast.
And it's not about selling. Again, I mean, our guys don't work on commission. I tell them, there's oftentimes they'll say, you know what, we're not going to sell you again today. Take a class, try some out, and then come back. And because the worst thing you want to do is sell something to somebody, and then they take the class and say, geez, if I would have known all of that, then maybe I wouldn't have gone in this direction. Right. What do you think, JC, as being a 20-year trainer?
JC speechless?
Well, I'll say this, familiarity matters, right? The more rounds you put down range, the more comfortable you get with it, with stance, with drawing. And let's face it, the moment you have to use it, God forbid, it's going to be one of those heart-pumping, hard breathing. You're going to have a lot that you're thinking about. What's beyond your target? Is there a wall? Is the bullet going to pass through it? There's a lot of things going through your mind. And so the more time you spend on the range, the better you're going to be and the more confident you're going to be.
And like we talked about when we went to the range, if you are in that life or death situation where you have to use your firearm to defend yourself, it is not going to first be at a time and place of your choosing. It's not going to happen when, hey, I got my extra mag today, my gun's here, and I got it going on today. No. It's going to be the time where you throw it in real. It's not going to be at a time and place of your choosing. The other thing is, it's not like on the range where how many times I say put your feet shoulder length apart. No. It's going to be. It could be one-handed. It's going to be off balance. You're probably not going to use your sights. And that's kind of what we talk about in some of our classes. We want to get people proficient at that point shooting, that up close, getting that person off of you. You have the advantage that you're not a law enforcement officer who is committed to running into that bank that's being robbed or whatever the case may be. You can just focus on yourself and your family and getting them out of the dangerous situation.
Right. That's how I loved how you had me do it with one hand and then my left hand too, just so I'm familiar with it. If that situation
offhanded shooting is so hard.
Right.
It is, even for pros.
But it gave her a level of confidence. I mean, I knew she could do it, but when you walk in, you really have a little experience with firearms, and now you're shooting with a non-dominant hand, and you're like, and I think one of your best shots of the day were with that non-dominant hand. You're like,
funny.
Hey, look at that. It starts to build that confidence, and it's you need to be proficient because it's a perishable skill. I mean, it will go away if you don't come in for another year, type of thing. So, so let's you dare, JC?
A drill I like to do with new shooters, and I've done this with my wife. There's Jason. But a new shooter tends to anticipate the kick, right?
Yes.
And then they flinch, and that actually causes inaccuracy. So I do the thing where I'll hand them a weapon that has a a round or not, and then see if they're just dry firing and they still flinch like that. And it teaches them to not have that reaction.
Yeah, and she, I mean, new shooter, I mean, she had some of that anticipation early on, and it happened to be one of the firearms, the slide didn't lock back. Okay. So she thought she was going to have another round, and so it was a click, and she was straight as an arrow. She did good with that, not anticipating that. So, JC, what do you think?
I've been listening, but I guess I wasn't on. Anyway, I'm going to go back to the one of the first things we talked about as far as taking someone's life. When we train, the focus is stop the threat, stop the threat. You have no right to take anyone's life. You're not judge and jury and executioner. But if you get the mindset, stopping the threat, stopping the threat. Mm-hmm. You shoot until the threat is stopped. Whatever the outcome is, your goal is to stop the threat. So that's an important. It really helps without worrying about, hey, I'm going to shoot this guy to cut me. You just don't know, but you stop the threat. But as far as the gun, everything you're saying is just absolutely right. A gun that fits your hand, we always say a $200 gun that fits your hand is better than a $2,000 gun that doesn't. So that's really important when you're doing this. The practice is important. And just like Eric was saying, when we shoot, you shoot two-handed, you shoot strong-handed, you shoot weak-handed, because it is not your choice. You could be, attacked in close range, someone can grab your right hand. You need to know how to function the gun with right, left hand, or both hands. So that's important too, and that just comes with training. But as far as the comfort goes, it's just the practice, and we are very, very good at that. It's a small gun store, vast experience. A lot of our folks are police officers who've had 40 years of experience, and anyway, it's a great place to learn. But I really think this will be great for you.
Yep, absolutely, guys. Let's jump to a break. When we come back on the other side, let's talk a little bit, Bella, about what you actually shot on the range and your experience actually shooting them, and versus what you saw out here in the showroom. We're on Target, broadcasting live from the studios of LAPD Firearms Range. We'll be back right after the break. Not bad.
Yep. Good. So, like most women, I think you probably enjoy to shop for clothes.
Yes.
So you're going to get a new wardrobe.
Yeah, I was looking at actually those purses over there to carry it.
Are you practicing weather?
Weather.
The weather's up next.
I have to do it again?
Either that, or you can relinquish it to the Secretary of State. That's all right too. Look at that.
Thank you, Bella.
I thought she was going to at least give it a harder time. All right.
Still 34?
Yeah, actually it's 33.
Going down.
Yeah, 33.
But everybody I've talked to that has had to use it, they don't remember barely what happened, and they all say, I felt like I had no choice.
Yeah.
And I've had 2 murders, and there are 2 homicides that guys were charged and indicted and acquitted on self-defense.
Wow.
And they both said the same thing.
I'm going to have to get your number.
So when we come back, we'll talk about going to the range, the ones we shot, and then about the last target we shot when we put up the Opata full profile target.
Oh, yeah, that was the best.
Stuff,
right.
So.
Oh, I should have brought it.
Yeah, where's it? Oh, that's the other side. That's okay. Yeah.
I forget the names of these guns.
That's okay.
Okay.
I'll leave yours with me. So the first one was your Smith & Wesson.
Yeah, I remember the revolver.
And then a SIG 365. That's the 9mm.
That was the bigger one.
Yep.
10 seconds.
This is your ABC6 first warning weather today. Cloudy skies, flurries, highs of 33, which is where it is right now tonight. Partly cloudy skies, going down to 19. Going to be a chilly night. Sunday, mostly cloudy skies, high of 35. It is currently 33 degrees. On your severe weather station, News Radio 610 WTVN.
Traffic, weather, and interesting talk. News Radio 610 WTVN.
Now that's public speaking there, right?
That's true. There you go. Hey, are we back on that kick already?
Always. We have another election in like 60 days.
I couldn't believe it.
In May.
I know it.
Yeah.
Wow.
What's the big ticket on there?
Well, there's a statewide ballot question. It's a bonding issue for for public improvements, and then there are a bunch of local primaries. You may have like a mayor's race or a city council race. It depends on where you are. You can check on our website voteohio.gov to see exactly what's on your ballot. But while you're there, make sure you're registered to vote and your address is updated.
There you go.
Yep.
Guys, welcome back to OnTarget. I'm your host, Eric, joined today in the LAPD studios. JC is on the live line with us. I got Big Ed here. I got Secretary of State Frank LaRose, who popped in for Glock Days. Always good to see you. And then I have Mr. Steve and Bella. We're talking about your first experience, Bella, shooting several firearms. Not your first experience shooting a firearm, but going through the paces of potentially picking one out. So let's talk about, we got a couple minutes left, about your going to the range. So we took to the range a couple different things. We took the Smith & Wesson J-frame small revolver. We took a SIG 365 and 9mm, so a very popular small concealed carry gun. We took the Smith & Wesson Bodyguard 2.0, which is the new Smith & Wesson Bodyguard, getting a lot of attention. Then we took a Ruger LCP, probably the most concealable of the bunch. Not the most fun to shoot per se, but something that you could probably conceal pretty good. What'd you think?
I liked the Bodyguard one, the new one you were talking about. I liked that one. And I did like the very, very tiny one, but the one you showed me, you said it had a longer pull.
Right.
But the newer ones don't have that. So I think if I shot the newer one, I would like that. I know you said it wasn't as fun. I'm doing it more just to have it, just to be safe.
Of course. So, and that's something to keep in mind. The LCP line is a very small gun. It's nothing. It's nothing you would take to the range necessarily and fire 100 rounds through it. Although you want to be proficient, but it's not as enjoyable to shoot than maybe a full size gun.
And as I've pointed out, you don't have to have only one gun.
There you go.
Right. You don't have plenty of options.
Gun people like to have this debate about what size caliber they want and everything else. I'm a fan of the 380. If you use a hollow point and everything else, it's got decent stopping power. Not the same as a 9, certainly not the same as a 40 or 45. But I like the 380 for concealment purposes.
And also, like we talked about, it is what you're going to carry. If you are, if you say, hey, the 365 I love, but 90% of the time you don't carry it because you don't have the right clothes on or whatever, it's not doing what it needs to do. I'd rather you be very proficient in a LCP or something smaller and have it with you every day. So as you went through these, you did pretty darn good. One of the things you shot, I think all of these left and right-handed. Were you surprised?
Yep. I was surprised at first. It actually made my arm quite sore. I was kind of surprised. Yeah. Well, the revolver has a lot of power to it, and I was not expecting that. But yeah, I think the Bodyguard one would be my favorite so far. I think that was the easiest for me to handle.
Yeah.
I practiced with both hands. I think I did okay.
Yeah, did good.
And that's what I use when I'm running. When you're out on a run, the last thing you want is some big old hog leg cranking around. And so that 380, you can get things that you wear here or whatever else that really easy to carry when you're running.
Right, yeah, not too heavy. This one was very heavy. I don't know why I came in thinking that would be my gun.
And that's the lightweight one.
Then, yeah, definitely not the gun for me.
Yeah, so you got a good flavor on the different sights for all of these, and you started to get an idea. We didn't have the target out that far, only had it out 12 feet, which is indicative of a potential encounter. I mean, if you're shooting at a target to defend yourself and it's 75 feet away, you're going to need Steve. Because you need to be able to justify that.
Well, she came in with the firearm she had. It had a laser sight on it, and you had some interesting comments on that, on whether that was something to start with, something not to have or have.
It has its place. We're not big fans of it here in general because we see a lot of people who lose sight of using their sights, and so they're on the range and they're trying to find the laser, and you have to make sure that laser is, zeroed into the barrel. The one good thing from a concealed carry standpoint is it is a deterrent. So if you put that beam on the bad guy and it's one last chance for him or her to turn around and maybe to decide to go the other way, then there is a value for that. We just don't like seeing people rely on it. You need to be proficient with your sights.
Right. I thought the laser would be something that I wanted in a gun, but I liked how you had me practice with the other ones that didn't have one because it really doesn't make that big of a difference, not to me.
Right. And you start to see the laser shaking. You're like, oh, I'm shaking.
Yeah, and now I'm like, I'm all over the place.
And then you start to get distracted by that. Right. One of the neat things that you did at the very end, which you did extremely well, we put up a full-size Opata target. So we put a man-sized target up there just to get a flavor on where you're hitting. Because sometimes we use these small targets and you get up, set that, I didn't hit in the black. Well, that there's something about competition shooting and trying to shoot the blackout versus self-defense. And so we put that full-size target up there. We put, I think, 5 rounds in the Bodyguard 380, and I said, look, fire these as fast as you can in a safe manner. Get back on target and everything else. And where were your shots?
I did pretty well. I wasn't directly in the circle, but I was in a
center mask. I mean, come on.
I was straight down the middle.
There you go. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Every single one of those shots would have stopped the threat.
Yeah.
Or would have inhibited the threat. They were good shots. But it started to give you that comfort level that, heck, even in rapid succession, look at that. I put them on the target,
right.
And that was just that technique of, having your feet apart and punching straight out. So, guys, that's the hour. It goes by that quick. We'd like to thank everyone here who is here for the Glock Days. Mr. Frank LaRose, who stopped in today, Big Ed, and JC Cost on the live line, and Steve and Bella. We'll update you on how many of these you end up buying.
Yes.
So, guys, next week we're going to talk about keeping your right to bear arms out there and some of the new products that are coming around. So stop by and see us. Glock Days is going on until 4 o'clock today. And as always, guys, let's be careful out there.
Number 1 on your car radio preset and the new and improved iHeartRadio app. Save 610 WTVN Columbus on your presets. Free never sounded so good.
We're definitely going to be late to the concert. I feel like we should be there by now.
I'm just taking a little detour. I gotta fill up my gas tank, and I know this place a couple towns over where the gas is cheaper.
Are you serious?
All right, Ella, whenever you're ready.
Because you're driving out of the way for cheaper gas? Just use Upside.
Okay, here we go.
What's Upside?
Upside is the free cashback app.
This is Eric with OnTarget. This week we keep you updated on your right to keep and bear arms, and the Journey Week is sponsored by U.S. Law Shield. Tune in right here Saturday at noon or live from LAPD Studios on Bethel Road.
I've made around $200. Now pull over so you can download the Upside
tomorrow at noon or live from LAPD Studios on Bethel Road.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas.
Today at noon or live from LAPD Studios on Bethel Road.
To get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your